I believed in you, and you became the very thing you sought to fight against. That's what you've become. You are the establishment, and you are the reason why everybody will end up in a nuclear war unless you choose to stand up right now and denounce the Democratic Party.
How's it going, everybody? Welcome to Liberty Bowl. So today we've got a whole bunch of clips for you, just proving that the Democratic Party is completely crumbling apart. Perfect timing, couldn't come better, just before the midterms, right? So definitely make sure you guys are registered to vote, and make sure you guys get out there, make some good choices. But before we get into some of these clips here, let's go ahead and get into this. The times they are a-changing, my friends. The times they are a-changing.
Well, let me run it down to you, communist, homosexual, faggot, dipshit, motherfucker. Fuck you! That's why. 'Cause fuck you! That's why. 'Cause helmets suck! That's why. And commies like you swallow! That's why. Fuck Pete Wilson! That's why. Fuck Dick Floyd! That's why.
I can no longer remain in today's Democratic Party that's under the complete control of an elitist cabal of warmongers who are driven by cowardly wokeness, who divide us by racializing every issue and stoking anti-white racism, who actively work to undermine our God-given freedoms that are enshrined in our Constitution, who are hostile to people of faith and spirituality, who demonize the police but protect criminals at the expense of law-abiding Americans, who believe in open borders, who weaponize the national security state to go after their political opponents, and above all, who are dragging us ever closer to nuclear war. Now, I believe in a government that's of the people, by the people, and for the people. Unfortunately, today's Democratic Party does not. Instead, it stands for a government that is of, by, and for the powerful elite. Now, I'm calling on my fellow common sense, independent-minded Democrats to join me in leaving the Democratic Party. If you can no longer stomach the direction that the so-called woke Democratic Party ideologues are taking our country, then I invite you to join me.
Okay, so that first one you just saw, that was Tulsi Gabbard, basically listing the entire, list of reasons why she is leaving the Democratic Party. I mean, of course, it's the same stuff that we've all pretty much over here on the right been, saying that the Democratic Party is guilty of. She's basically just coming out and saying that, saying it from the left-hand perspective, right? So there's some speculation going around that, maybe it was a bit of a publicity stunt, seeing as she did launch her brand new podcast the very same day. She was also on the Joe Rogan Experience the very same day, which of course you do need to schedule out, I would imagine. She I believe also had an interview on Tucker Carlson that same night. The timing was correct, but of course, I mean, this is really for the midterms as well, and it's a good thing either way, whether it's a publicity stunt to promote her podcast or not. Either way, it still has a great effect. It still has that sting to it, especially for the Democratic Party, and it really does kind of invite some more people from the Democratic Party that maybe aren't getting along with everything that they say, at least to an extent, it's inviting them out to follow her lead, right? So you also saw that she did kind of end off there with, the threat of nuclear war that the Democratic Party is pushing. And so we saw just, a couple months ago, the New York government put out this public service announcement warning about a possible, what to do during a nuclear threat. And, mainly, of course, pay attention to, listen to everything that the media tells you, as, the main gist of it. Check it out.
So there's been a nuclear attack. Don't ask me how or why, just know that the big one has hit, okay? So what do? There are 3 important steps that I want you to remember. Step 3, stay tuned. Follow media for more information. Don't forget to sign up for Notify NYC for official alerts and updates. And don't go outside until officials say it's safe. All right? You've got this.
All right, so as you can probably guess with PSAs like that, the people of New York are more than likely kind of on edge, especially when it comes to things like terrorist attacks, possible nuclear attacks, right? So we just saw, earlier, I believe it was yesterday, AOC get completely lit up in this completely packed high school auditorium, right, by some of her constituents.
Congresswoman, none of this matters unless there's a nuclear war, which you voted to send arms and weapons to Ukraine. Tulsi Gabbard, she's left the Democratic Party because they're a bunch of war hawks, okay? You originally voted, you ran as an outsider, yet you've been voting to start this war in Ukraine. You're voting to start a thermonuclear war with Russia and China. Why are you playing with the lives of American citizens? You're playing with our lives.
There will be no neighbors if there's a nuclear bomb. You voted to mobilize and send money to Ukrainian Nazis. You're a coward. You're a progressive socialist. Where are you against the war mobilization? He's telling the right truth. You have done nothing. Tulsi Gabbard has shown guts where you've shown cowardice. I believed in you, and you became the very thing you sought to fight against. That's what you've become. You are the establishment, and you are the reason why everybody will end up in a nuclear war unless you choose to stand up right now and denounce the Democratic Party. Will you do that? Yes or no? Okay, simple. Are you going to stop nuclear war? Yes or no? There is no line, because this is bullshit. None of this matters if we're all dead. None of it. You know that. Then let's take it up right now, because this is the only thing that matters. This is the only thing that matters right now. We could be in a nuclear war at any minute, and you continue to fund it. That's what's going on. Why not right now? You're the liar here. Nobody has held you accountable. That's what's happening. And it is time for you to stand up and realize that what you've been saying has been lies. Let your conscience come through for once.
Okay, so good shit, right? So this next clip is going to be coming from Dearborn, Michigan, right? So here they are at a school board meeting and they are doing reviews of books, right? They were reviewing, books for the curriculums, things like that, right? And of course, that's a big thing going on right now in the country. All these woke books that they're trying to push to kids, all these, drag queen story hours that they're trying to have in the classrooms, things like that. It's a big issue, right? So if you're not aware, Dearborn, Michigan is largely an Arab population, right? Largely, Muslim communities, things like that. So they really don't want this type of, stuff being taught to their children, right? They have largely voted Democrat for a long time, mainly because, generally Democrats were the party that you vote for if you are a person of color, as they put it, right? Because identity politics is pretty much the name of their game. So generally, this is a big slap in the face because, as I'm sure you're aware, people of any religion, people that are very devoutly religious, it doesn't matter what it is, they generally have some fundamental values. Things like homosexuality and pretty much this entire woke ideology, things like trans, values, all this type of stuff, very much against their fundamental ideologies. And you start going after their children and trying to indoctrinate them with this ideology. Oh, you're about to see what happens.
No, I am, as board president, I have the right to set the time limits.
You have the right to sit there and tell us we can't talk.
Roxanne, just continue, Roxanne.
Okay.
Just continue.
I have the floor.
Yeah, pretty intense, right? All right. So for this next one, we're going to go to the old head honcho himself, the old big cheese, the fucking head of the helm of the Democratic Party, the master of the gaffsters, Joseph R. Bidens, right? So he seems to think that his son is on the straight and narrow. You know, he's got a couple years of sobriety under his belt. You know, he's doing good things, right? He also goes and says that, he never heard anything about, him, signing a, for a gun, knowing that he's on drugs or anything like that. And then he literally within a sentence or two later goes on and says like, but he said about it in his book that he did that with the gun and things like that. He said that he remembers signing that and actually checking that off and knowing that he was lying. So did you know about that? Did he write it in his book? Like, I don't know, but let's go and check it out.
CNN's reporting and the Washington Post reporting suggests that prosecutors think they have enough to charge your son Hunter for tax crimes and a false statement about a gun purchase. Personally and politically, how do you react to that?
Well, first of all, I'm proud of my son. This is a kid who got, not a kid, he's a grown man. He got hooked on, like many families have had happen, hooked on drugs. He's overcome that. He's established a new life. He is, I'm confident that he is, what he says and does are consistent with what happens. For example, he wrote a book about his problems and was straightforward about it. I'm proud of him. He came along and said, by the way, this thing about a gun, I didn't know anything about it, but turns out that when he made my application to purchase a gun, what happened was I guess you get asked, I don't guess, you get asked the question, are you on drugs, you use drugs? He said no. And he wrote about saying no in his book. So I have great confidence in my son. I love him, and he's on the straight and narrow, and he has been for a couple of years now, and I'm just so proud of him.
Right? Couldn't be more proud of Hunter, right? Who wouldn't be so proud of their son, right? He got clean off drugs, he fucking may have done some tax evasion, some of this and that stuff, there are some things involving a gun. Who doesn't have that, right? All right. So now Joe Biden, they're going to ask him about his age, right? Because that's, of course, the number one thing. The dude has clear dementia. So he's, of course, going to go ahead and talk about his accomplishments, the things he's been able to get done, how cognitively aware he is. And then he's going to go ahead and talk about his fitness. And then he's going to go ahead and tell the guy that, oh, you should come work out with me sometime.
Voters have been watching you. Democratic voters approve of the job you're doing. Democratic voters overwhelmingly like you. But one poll shows that almost 2/3 of Democratic voters want a new nominee in 2024, and the top reason they gave was your age. So what's your message to Democrats who like you, who like what you've done, but are concerned about your age and the demands of the job?
Well, they're concerned about whether or not I can get anything done. Look what I've gotten done. Name me a president in recent history that's gotten as much done as I have in the first 2 years. Not a joke. You may not like what I got done, but the vast majority of the American people do like what I got done. And so it's a matter of, can you do the job? And I believe I can do the job. I've been able to do the job. I've got more done. I got the Inflation Reduction. I got all these pieces of legislation passed. And I ran on that. I said this is what I was going to do. And I'm still getting it done. We've got, dealing with, making sure the veterans get compensated for the
burn pits.
The burn pits, making sure that we're in a situation where we finally have action on guns. And by the way, I'm going to get an assault weapons ban. Before this is over, I'm going to get that again. Not a joke. And watch. And so I just think there's it's a matter of, has anybody done more in the first 2 years of their administration for a guy who they've been saying this about my age since I began to run. Mm-hmm. And so, you can come work out with me in the morning.
Anytime.
Alrighty, man. So that's about all the clips I got for you. I appreciate you guys, stopping by. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share. There was some other, ones this week that I could have put in there. Like John Fetterman. Apparently it was announced that he can't understand words. Apparently, his comprehension isn't all there. Apparently after having a stroke, it kind of messes with your brain functions. Definitely check out the video that I just made the other day with a whole bunch of stuff concerning Katie Hobbs, the gubernatorial candidate here in Arizona. Whole bunch of fucking gas coming from her. Great. What do you even call it? Word salad, right? So yeah, you guys, appreciate you all. Like, subscribe, share. Fuck off.
That's stupid. Use your common sense. Don't forget the blogs. Forget how you feel about me. Hate me if you want to, love me if you want, but just use your common sense.